Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to your very own BYJU'S 9th and 10th grade channel. I'm your teacher Aishwarya, and in our class today we are going to be solving top 30 most important questions from biology that will help you ace your midterm exams. So I hope all of you are excited for today's class. Let me know if my audio, my video and my screen and whatever I'm writing on the screen is visible to all of you. If it is, give me a quick thumbs up to let me know that we are good to go. So good evening Divyanshu, Kabyanjali, Fluent Gamers. I can see Sakshi, Prasanna, Neha, Karthik, Aditya. Many of you are here. Good evening everybody. Good evening. Yes. So now that everything is good to go, what can we expect from our class today, right? So as you can see, first and foremost, we are going to be solving top 30 most important questions. So as you can see here, of course, the two chapters that are there for your midterms are life processes and control and coordination. So when you're coming for this class, please make sure you have your notebooks, your textbooks, your stationery, water bottle and a quiet place to focus. Because as you all know, today's class can go up to 1 hour. I'll be realistic, 1 hour and 30 minutes. So it's a 1.5 hour class. Now if you are going to sit with me for 1.5 hours class, we are not going to waste our time having unnecessary conversations, because see, it's already September. Your board exams are going to start in February. If you are saying that, "Arey ma'am, time hai, kya hai, why should I study, why should I do this?" then what is going to happen? You will while away your time. Then when December comes, you close your eyes and you open, it's December, 2 months mein board exam is there, and then you will be like, "Arey ma'am, I have not studied anything, gone now." Then you will start stressing out. Which is why whatever time that you have decided to dedicate today, whatever time it be, whether it's going to be 1.5 hours, make it a point that you dedicate that 1.5 hours of time with me, where we will solve 30 important questions from the chapter. And you know that life process and control coordination hold good amount of weightage in your boards. Thereby this class is going to be very, very helpful. मैं starting से पढ़ा सकती हूँ. I'll not be able to teach you. See, I know that one way to do, rather what I would prefer is, once I finish off your biology syllabus, when I do a revision, Ankita ma'am and I would prefer that we do a full biology at one go. I know Saurabh sir had done this class with you yesterday where he took full physics, but because physics mein you had 3 chapters. Now biology mein we actually have 2 more very, very big chapters left to cover, which is why I will not be able to do it from the beginning. But not to worry, as you all know, there are one-shot videos available, whether it be for life process, whether it be for control coordination. The chapters are available. So don't forget to check it out. Yes? Hello Team 7 guy. Hello Neha. Hello Anurag. Hello Prasanna, Muskan. Yes? I will get started. Now of course a few important things to keep in mind. What are we doing today? I'll be covering MCQs. I'm going to be doing 2-mark questions. I'm going to be doing 3-mark questions, and I will do case-based questions as well. Now I will not be doing a mentee quiz. Ma'am, can you do a live session on chapter 6, control coordination? So you can check out my last week's video on control coordination, where I've actually taught the whole chapter at one go. So you can watch that video because I've already finished that part, right? So today I will not be doing a mentee quiz for all of you. There is no mentee quiz. Any of you is asking me mentee nahi hai aaj. It's going to be MCQs. It's going to be 2-mark. So make it a point you have your notebooks ready or textbooks ready, because I will be telling you all the important topics. Today's class is going to be practice for all of you. How many of you have exams coming up in this week? Maybe by tomorrow, day after. How many of you have your exams coming up? Yes or no? How many have exams starting from the 15th of September? That means that in your 15th of September, if your exams are starting, whether it be 15th or 18th, it means that you will have a written exam. Nobody is going to give you mentee code and ask you to play mentee in your exam. They are going to ask you to write. So how you need to know how to write the answers, no? You need to know how to frame your answers. You need to know what are the important pointers. So this class is going to be very, very helpful in that manner. And I know many of you still have doubts on phytohormones and many other things. I have questions based on the same. We'll start solving. We'll start solving questions together, and as we go on, it's going to help you. And even next week, as your exams are going also, we have a lot of plans for you where time efficiently we will help you revise as well. I know it is the dark truth, but this is the truth. No, you all love playing mentee so much to a point that you have forgotten that in board exam nobody's going to ask you to come and play mentee. I will do a live class on how do organisms reproduce. I will do that very soon. Probably next week or next week we're planning it. So are we ready? Now I'd like to give you a small notion, like I would like to tell something in the beginning. It's just that I'm not keeping well today. My throat is hurting a little bit. So my normal enthusiasm and energy that I have during class might be slightly lower down than normal because I'm not feeling well today. But that does not mean that you lose josh and energy. Arey ma'am ko josh nahi hai, to hame josh nahi hai. No. Whatever josh that I am lacking today will be compensated by my students, right? So I need your josh to be high, and we will get started. Ma'am, 1 hour duration. Ma'am, competency included? Yes, competency is included. Assertion reason, I have some assertion reason questions, but I'll give you more. Don't worry. Hi, Josh. ठीक है. So don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button as well, right? Very, very important that you don't forget to hit the like button on the video or subscribe button as well, because you know that BYJU'S has got you covered. Most importantly, right, I'm sure you've been hearing about this, but in case if you've not heard, you all know that we have the mock test. Now we promised you a mock test as well that's going to help you ace your exams. So we have a mock test live for all of you for both maths as well as science, which is there absolutely free on the BYJU'S app. Now this is a very limited offer thing which is going to be there only for 2 weeks and not more than that. So if you want to attempt it, you can go. This is how you got to go. You can download the app. See, it's again free. You don't need to pay anything. Download the app, go to the section where you have competitive exams, and as you all know, just click on it, go to science. You will have the mock test for science as well as math. Now, important thing to remember here is it's not just some quiz that you give and you forget about it. From this quiz, you will also get a detailed analysis of what are your chapters, which are your strength. So, wherever you've gone wrong, the app will analyze and tell you where you went wrong, what is good for you, what is, these are the chapters which are your strength. This chapter may you need to improve. So, this will also tell you, right? This will also tell you how you can improve better. Yes? ठीक है. आवाज नहीं आ रही? हाँ, विक्स की गोली चाहिए मेरे को. I'll go take it. I didn't think I had a bad throat today, but when I started taking the previous class, it really helped. I mean, it did hurt my throat. So students, we will get started. Yes. Notes aayega, Karthik. Notes aayega. By today, all the updated notes will be there. No mentee. Please tell the others also that there is no mentee. Let's get started, students. Question number 1. Sadly, I don't have anybody with me in the studio, so YouTube polls might not be there. But that does not mean that you don't answer. Question number 1. If salivary amylase is lacking in saliva, which of the following events in the mouth cavity will be affected? Proteins breaking down into amino acids, starch breaking down into sugars, fats breaking down into fatty acids, or absorption of vitamins? Easy peasy question. If salivary amylase is lacking. Now, I'll tell you how this question can come. They can ask you based on the experiment that is there. You remember there's an experiment given to you. There's 1 ml of starch, and then there is 1 ml of starch given to you plus salivary amylase. So you have this experiment. You have an NCERT activity also. So this kind of question can be given with respect to the NCERT activity as well. So that is one more way in which they can ask you this question. Now we know that the function of salivary amylase is to act on starch, which breaks it down into maltose. So if salivary amylase is not there, then this particular function will not happen, which is why the correct answer is option B. Boiled rice activity is also there. So now of course the correct answer is option B. Easy peasy. Moving on to question number 2. Now this could seem like a very similar question which we have solved earlier as well, but again all of you, I would like you to attempt. Identify the option that indicates the correct enzyme that is secreted in locations 1, 2 and 3. Now before I show you the options, I want you all to identify what is 1, 2 and 3. In the chat, can you tell me what is 1, 2 and 3? Can you tell? Yes, you can ask me your doubt. Holmes. Ranjit, can we do one thing? Can we just increase the font size a little bit? Salivary amylase, Very good. So what is one? It is salivary glands. Very good. Salivary glands. Then what is part 2? Very good. Salivary amylase that is there is, salivary glands is going to secrete salivary amylase, right? So this will secrete salivary amylase. You have 2, which is stomach. We know that stomach is a flattened J-shaped bag which has secretions like mucus, pepsin, and of course we have HCl. 3 here is pointing towards the pancreas. So now in this case, this is the pancreas, right? So in this case, what do you see? It's actually pointing towards that. You can't see clearly because pancreas is sitting behind. So pancreas has pancreatic juice, which has your pancreatic amylase, trypsin, and pancreatic lipase, which is why from this what you see is the correct answer. Correct answer is simple, option B, right? Option B, which says amylase, pepsin, trypsin. Very good, very good. Super proud. So salivary juice or saliva, your gastric juice, and pancreatic juice. Super proud. Moving on to question number 3 on your screens now, which is assertion reason. Assertion A says that amphibians can tolerate mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Reason R being that amphibians are animals with 2-chambered heart. What is the correct answer? See, carboxylase is different. You don't need to worry about carboxylase now. There is a time and next year you will worry. In 11th grade if you take biology. Okay, I can see that there is B and C. B, C, B, C, B or C. Let me say it that way. See, anonymous, pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme that is produced by the stomach. Trypsin is a protein digesting enzyme which is produced by pancreas. Now the action or the mode of action is different because pepsin requires a more acidic medium while trypsin requires a more alkaline medium, which is why they are both same but they are also different. Pepsin trypsin ka difference you're clear? Shilpi and many others. मैम प्यूपल का साइज इंक्रीज होने से ब्रेन का क्या होगा? Did I read that doubt properly? I'll answer that anyway. Students, answer is option C. Nephron is, ma'am, nephron is cell or tissue? Good question. I'll answer that with a question on nephron. See, how many of you got confused here? Amphibians can tolerate mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. This statement is true. But do amphibians, are amphibians with animals with 2-chambered heart? Yes or no? Amphibians have a 2-chambered heart or do they have a 3-chambered heart? You tell me. Whoever gave me answer as B, you have to tell me the answer. Very good. So amphibians have a 3-chambered heart. Which animal has a 2-chambered heart? You tell me that now. Yes, very good, ma'am. See, silly mistakes. These are the silly mistakes which I'll catch you for. Very good. Exactly. Fishes have a 2-chambered heart, right? So we know that fishes have a 2-chambered heart and that's why when you look at it, right, the way the circulation happens in fishes is much different, let's say when compared to amphibians. And in amphibians especially we see that there's a lot of mixed blood that gets transported. And that is because they have 2 atria and they have a single ventricle where mixing of blood happens. So in this case, what do we observe? We see that in this case, the statement is false. So that means that assertion statement is true but reason is false. Now reptiles on the other hand actually have a 3-chambered heart, but the problem is that their ventricles are incompletely partitioned. That's why it looks like a 3rd chamber, not a 4th chamber. While on the cases, if you see, when you look at crocodiles, crocodiles are the only reptiles that have a 4-chambered heart, right? So correct answer here is option C. Are we all clear? Are we all clear? Yes or no? I will explain platelets. I'll explain everything. As we solve questions, I will explain all the concepts. Don't worry. Just stay with me till the end. That is all I request from all of you. If you are committing your time with me, stay till the end. Don't drop off telling, "Arey ma'am, nahi ho raha hai mujhse," and then drop off. Don't do that. Commit and be consistent. Good. Moving on to question number 4, students. In a closed circulatory system, blood is completely enclosed where? Inside the vessels, inside the alimentary canal, inside the skeleton, or inside the sinuses. Simple. Closed circulatory system. What do we mean by it is closed? If you say that it is closed, it means that the blood has a pathway to flow. And what creates the pathway? It is nothing but the vessels. So, correct answer here is option A, vessels. Now, on the other hand, this is a fun fact. On the other hand, if you look at it, we see that there are certain organisms like your cockroaches, which actually have an open circulatory system. That means they don't have these blood vessels, but rather we see that the fluid that is there is found within the body itself. So we say that they have a open circulatory system that is there. Are we all clear? Yes or no? Okay. Sinuses are basically spaces. They're small cavity or spaces that are found. So normally if you say you have sinuses here, right? So there are spaces that are found between tissues that are there. Okay. Mohammed, I'll explain your doubt. Don't worry. Question number 5. Very, very important topic which will come even for 2 marks to elaborate. The opening and closing of stomatal pore depends on dash. Why does the stomata open and close? I will explain lymph also. You will ask me to explain lymph till board exam time because you feel like lymph is a scary topic. Lymph is very easy. There's nothing complicated about lymph. First you tell yourself that. You all are OPs. All of you are OP. You've all got the answer correctly. It is because of the water in guard cells. So movement of the water inside and outside the guard cells actually determines the opening and closing of stomata. Now one thing you all need to know is that you should know what will happen when water enters into the guard cell, what is the shape and what does that mean? Does this mean that the stomata is open or closed? And what will happen if the water leaves out? More water, it will swell up. Less water, it will shrink. Very good, Neha. Yes, you can use the term turgid or flaccid. So, Nana, transportation of plants is basically transport of water and minerals through xylem to the leaves, transport of food through phloem. You need to elaborate. I mean, I can't, that's a whole 1 hour topic for me to teach, but this is the broad crux of it, right? Good. Question number 6 on your screens. Which among the following is not associated with growth of plant? Yes? Ma'am, in today's session, questions can come. See, the question will not come as it is. But I'm discussing all the important topics because see, we have not only analyzed your PYQs. Now, if you think about it, I have solved PYQs with you. I have already solved important MCQs. Now, what I'm doing is I'm taking all the important topics plus PYQs, making into different types of questions. So, the concept is what you should focus on and see how the question can be twisted and turned in this case. So, that is how your focus should be. Not that whatever question Aishwarya ma'am will give will come as it is in my exam. Every teacher is different, but the topics prescribed by boards, right? There's a pattern which we are able to detect and we are able to give you some topics. Good. Which is not associated. So we know that we're talking about something that is a growth inhibitor, right? So we're talking about a growth inhibitor. Auxin promotes growth. Yes, and we know that especially with auxin, it allows for the elongation of cells. Gibberellins that are there, they promote seed germination. They also help in stem elongation. Your cytokinins promote cell division and thereby growth, which is why here we see that correct answer is option D, which is abscisic acid. And we know that because if abscisic acid is produced, we also call abscisic acid as the dash hormone in plants. What is another name for abscisic acid? Can you tell me? Dash hormone is called, or rather I would say abscisic acid is also called as the dash hormone. Very good. It is called as the stress hormone. So another question you can get is which is the stress hormone synthesized in plants, right? So we know that the stress hormone synthesized is abscisic acid, which is a growth inhibitor. It inhibits growth and it promotes aging. Yes, causes wilting of leaves, falling of leaves. Very good. Very, very good. Now, I hope all of you are keeping track of your marks, of how many answers you got correctly and how many you got incorrectly. So this way you will also get a good idea of how much or where you are going wrong. Are you going wrong because you didn't know the question? Are you going wrong because you knew the concept but I made silly mistake? Yes? So that is something you need to remember. Reflex arc is formed by dash. Muscle, brain, receptor. Muscle, spinal cord, receptor. Receptor, brain, spinal cord. Receptor, spinal cord, muscle. Easy peasy. What is a reflex arc? It is the shortest route. Again, writing key pointers. Shortest route taken by the nerve impulse for an immediate reaction. Does what perceives the stimulus? Your receptor, not your muscle. So A and B can be eliminated. Now you have receptor, brain, spinal cord, receptor, spinal cord, muscle. Now, although we know that the receptors will perceive information, take it to the brain. From the brain, we know that if it has to go to leg or muscle, normally some voluntary action, we know that it will go to spinal cord. But this is a reflex arc. So in this case, we see that receptors. The correct answer is option D, right? Agam, it's not that brain is not involved. I always tell you, please don't say brain is not involved, because that is the way you will end up getting a misconception. Brain, it's not directly involved. Brain is kept informed that this particular action is taking place. But that doesn't mean that brain is just like, array, spinal cord is doing something, I'm just doing something. No. Brain and spinal cord will coordinate. Just that an information or a signal is sent to the brain. And of course, we know that the decision is taken by the spinal cord. So answer here is option D. Very good. Moving on to question number 8 on your screens now. The main effect of cytokinin in plants is to do what? Improve quality of fruit, prevent growth of lateral buds, regulate opening and closing of stomata, or stimulate cell division. Ritika, can I do this? Maybe when I have a question based on that, if you don't mind. I just told you the answer. So many of you should get this correctly. Just now I gave you the answer. Very good. Many of you have got that correctly also. It's promote cell division. Improve quality of fruits, or rather if I say, if you were to talk about ripening of fruits, that is a function of ethylene. Prevent growth of lateral buds. We know that although it is not the direct function of cytokinin, because again, when we say prevent growth, that means growth inhibition. That's not the case. Now regulate opening and closing of stomata. That is not done by cytokinin, but that is regulated by movement of water, which is why answer is option D. Ma'am, what is function of ethylene? Ethylene function is to help or promote ripening of fruits. Cyril, I hope we are clear. Yes? So sweet. So sweet, Ishwar. So sweet. Moving on to question number 9. Assertion reason again. There is subjective questions after this. On attaining puberty, breast size increases and reproductive organs develop in females. Reason says that ovaries release a hormone called as progesterone in females. So what is the correct answer here? Now before I I'd like to have that conversation with you when I do reproduction chapter, because I know a lot of these lame comments will come during reproduction chapter. So I'll give you a heads up now only. You're all adults, no? So these are things that as students of science we need to be informed. So there's no smirking and doing about it. It's all things we have to learn and know and be aware of. So there's no need to say some inappropriate things just because we learn or read about all of this, right? You're students of science. You're students of science, you should know what is what. It's as simple as that for me. I treat you as adults, to be honest. To be honest, I don't treat you as children. I treat you as adults. I treat you as young adults who are responsible students. You are the future of this country and you're all matured enough. It's a conversation we're having, right? I know I'm going to have a detailed conversation with you when I do how do organisms, because I know for a fact that all of you here, I've seen it earlier also, which is why I'll have that conversation with you when we do that chapter in great detail. Very good. Wait. C, I forgot to read. Many of you, B, ma'am, please come in UP. When I come there, I'll definitely meet all of you. A, B, ma'am, progesterone is also secreted, right? B, C, A. Okay, before I show you the answer, how many of you like this question? Ma'am, question is good. We don't know what is the answer exactly. How many of you like this question? It's a very interesting question. I actually liked it a lot because it is a little twisted. It's not direct. Mama. Okay. Answer is option B. Now, I'll tell you how. On attaining puberty, that means that we know that puberty is the point of life where the body or the individual attains reproductive maturity, which means during reproductive maturity, the body starts to undergo changes. Now, what is it? We see that, of course, there are changes where the reproductive organs start to develop, right? So, although the reproductive organs are there, they need to undergo a certain set of development which takes place post-puberty. Next, we see that on attaining puberty, the breast size increases, or we know that the mammary glands will develop. So, this statement is true. Now, what is the reason? Reason that is there is ovaries release hormone, or ovaries release a hormone called as progesterone. Identify whether the statement is true or false. The statement is true only, no? Progesterone that is there, we know that this is produced by the ovaries. And we learn in greater detail as in the ovaries we have something called as corpus luteum that secretes it, which we will learn in the next chapter. But we learnt about it. See, understand that we learnt it the other way. We learned that there are sex hormones, there are hormones which are produced by the sex organ. We know that the sex hormone is the estrogen, but we also have progesterone. And we learned about the functions of estrogen. And we know that progesterone is the pregnancy hormone. But if you think about it, the question is twisted and it's asked you in a different manner. Which is why both A and R are true. But as you see, it is not the correct explanation. Because if it was about estrogen, then we know that it would be the correct explanation. But here we know that it is the incorrect explanation. Ma'am, progesterone, see, progesterone is secreted in large amounts mainly after fertilization, right? So once fertilization takes place, in order to maintain the uterine wall, we know that progesterone is secreted in large amounts. We'll do that in the next chapter. Shivanshu, this has not come from how do organisms. This has come from your control coordination where we have learnt about estrogen and progesterone. Are we clear now? Yes, are we clear? Yes or no? This is not from that chapter at all. This is not at all from that chapter. Very good team 7 guy. Estrogen is responsible for the secondary sexual characters. Yes? Are we clear? Ha. Okay. Moving on to question number 9. Question number 10, sorry. Which of the following statements are correct about receptors? Gustatory receptors detect taste while olfactory receptors detect smell. Both gustatory and olfactory receptors detect smell. Auditory receptors detect. I am not going through the whole options. It's too much to read. You figure out the correct answer. See, progesterone is secreted. So basically, what happens is that the level of progesterone increases considerably because it's considered to be a pregnancy hormone, right? So when we learn about the details when I do the 3rd chapter, right now you may not understand a lot of it, but the question was just to help you identify the function of estrogen. It's as simple as that, okay? Excretion, I have a question on excretion. Yes. Are we clear? You should know the answer to this. Let me just open the chat. It's paused on my screen. Very good. This is an exemplar question if you all see. See, we know that receptors that are there are specialized cells that have the ability to detect stimulus. And we know that in our body we have various types of receptors. We have photoreceptors that are there which help us detect light. We have auditory receptors. So auditory receptors that help us detect sound. We also say phonoreceptors. Gustatory receptors help us detect taste, which are present in our tongue. And we have olfactory receptors which are present in our nose that helps us smell. And of course, apart from that, we have various types of receptors. So now, of course, as you see here, in all these cases, we see that the correct representation is for option A. So there you go, students. As you can see, with this, section A is done. And I know that many of you, on a majority, you got 10 out of 10. But what is your individual score? You let me know right now. Skin may we have various types. You have thermoreceptors, you have receptors for pain, you have a variety of receptors in your skin. Yes? Okay, very good. 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, very good. How many of you went wrong in that first assertion reason question? I feel like many of you went wrong in the first assertion reason one. Nalini, arey no, I would have missed your question. Yes. Okay, very good, very good. So are we ready? Half an hour में 10 questions हो गया. I know that progesterone question also many of you got confused. Now quickly to recall that your estrogen functions, somebody was confused with estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is for secondary sexual characters, development of facial hair, development of mammary glands, development of hair in the armpit and in the pubic regions, secondary sexual widening of pelvis, they're all regulated by estrogen. Progesterone is a pregnancy hormone which is secreted in more amounts during pregnancy. Yes? Good. Now, of course, before I move into the next set of questions, I hope all of you have hit the like button on the video, and I hope you've not forget to hit the subscribe button as well. I can see that many of you here are I can see that the number of live students are very consistent, but at the same time, the number of likes also has to be consistent. We should have at least 200 likes on this video. So don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button as well. Yes? Nalini, at the moment, there are some videos of mine as well, which will help you. I'm one of the master tutors. You will be able to find me there as well. Okay. So shall we move on to question number 11? Question number 11 on your screens. Now, these are subjective questions, so you just give me keywords. You don't need to type the whole thing, okay? What are enzymes? Name any one enzyme of our digestive system and write its function. Just give me the keywords. You don't need to give me the full sentences. Super duper. I can see the answer, so 2 marks. 1 mark for this, 1 mark for this. Yes. Ma'am, will these questions... See, again, like I said, these are the type of questions which can come. Not like I am leaking your paper saying these are the only questions which will come. But these are concepts that you have to know. Yes. What is senescence? Senescence is basically like when parts are withering off and they eventually fall, right? So basically senescence is like deterioration. Basically when they start to wither off. It's easier in that way. Good. What are enzymes? Enzymes are basically proteins, and we say that they are biological catalysts that speed up the rate of a chemical reaction without getting involved in the reaction. So they are the ones which speed up the process but make sure that they themselves don't get involved. Now in our body, various enzymes are produced. One example is that of salivary amylase or ptyalin that is produced, and we know that salivary amylase will increase the speed or the rate in which starch is broken down into simpler sugars, and of course it will not get involved. Easy peasy. So 1 mark for writing down that they are biological catalysts. That is your keyword. Keyword is biological catalyst, with the fact that they increase the rate of the chemical reaction without really getting used up. And you can give any one example. You will get 2 marks for the question. Simple. Moving on to question number 12. Now this is a PYQ. This came last year. A similar question came last year. 2 green plants are kept separately in an oxygen-free container. One in the dark and one in continuous light. Now, which of the following will live longer? So, you have one plant which is kept in an oxygen-free container, but one is kept in light, another is kept in the dark. Yes. Your question is, which will live longer? Give reason. Plant 1 or plant 2. So, you have plant 1 which is kept in light, another one which is kept in the dark. Now you have to give me the answer also. Simple. Very good. See, you know this is an example of competency where you are applying the concept. Now, don't always think that competency will be scary. Ma'am, competency means there will be very high order question that I cannot solve. Competency means how are you going to apply the concept that you know. That is what you mean by building competency. It's as simple as that. So first and foremost, you throw your fear about competency. Yes? Throw your fear about competency, because if you know the concept, you will know to apply it. It's as simple as that. Very good. So see, both don't have oxygen, right? In both cases, what do we see? No oxygen is present. But one is continuously kept in light while one is continuously kept in dark. Now the one kept in light, of course, they have not said that there's no carbon dioxide. So we know that carbon dioxide can be utilized, water is provided. So as we all know, in this case, photosynthesis is bound to happen, right? So we know that photosynthesis will take place, and when photosynthesis takes place, oxygen will be released, which means eventually the plant can survive. It is making its own oxygen and surviving. But the one in dark is not able to photosynthesize. So at a longer period, we know that this plant is bound to die. So the correct answer, many of you gave it correctly. Ma'am, why is it mentioned oxygen free? It is mentioned oxygen free because we need to establish. See, if I tell one is kept in light and dark, this plant can still survive. They are stressing on oxygen free to tell you guys that, or to give you a hint that for the plant to survive, they need oxygen. Because we also know that oxygen is necessary for respiration. It's not just about the plant producing or doing photosynthesis. They must be able to survive. So they use this oxygen later on to do photosynthesis to do respiration in order to get energy. So are we clear as to why it is mentioned that way? So this is how you will give the answer now. Okay? 1 mark for writing that the one kept in continuous light will survive longer. Why? Because of this reason. And you have to say what will happen to the other plant also. You can't just be thinking about one plant. You should tell the other one also. Totally 2 marks for this. Okay? Can make its food process, but in the dark one due to absence of light, it can make its food. Nahin, dark one due to absence of light, it cannot. Team 7 guy. It cannot make its own food. Because as you all know, right? If light is not there, it cannot do photosynthesis. We have established. Yes. See, one typo, one small spelling error will go a long way. So, but correct. See, dark reaction can take place. I know, dark reaction where reduction will happen can take place. So we know that light reaction is basically where photolysis or breaking. So we know that in steps of photosynthesis, I'm not going into the details of it, but if you look at it, you need light to do what? You need light to break down your water molecules into its respective ions. Yes? Now when the light is necessary, that much energy from light is necessary to break the water molecule. And we know that that hydrogen ion that you get from that water is what is playing a key role in producing your carbohydrate. And those oxygen ions eventually form your oxygen gas. Which is why for reduction to happen also you need light reaction to happen. Yes or no? That is what you need to know. Ma'am, starch is also known as carbohydrate. Starch is a type of carbohydrate. Yes? Very good, Ritika. This is very similar to the KOH question. Exactly. Very good. Now moving on to question number 13. Yes. Ma'am, in most cases, we don't know the practical applications of competency questions. So I get confused. I hope that requires a lot of practice. Actually. Most of the time it seems scary, but you just need practice. Nothing more than that. Practice makes all of us perfect. But I'll say practice makes us almost perfect. Nobody is perfect in this world. Not even me. I'm so far from perfect. Anyway, give reason. 2 marks. Water enters. Let me use my yellow color. Water enters through the root. Enters continuously into root xylem. Okay. Root xylem. Think about it. Very good, Manya. Yes. Root pressure due to transpirational pull. See, transpirational pull that is there is especially a key factor for tall plants like trees. So we know that in tall plants, we know that there needs to be a suction force. But here they have not specified. Here we're talking about just some plants. Any plant. So what is the answer? Very good, Moksha. Very good, Cosmo Talk. Kushagra, Team 7 guy, very good. Exactly. Very good, Agam. Yes. Oh, cohesion tension theory. So, very simple. we know that there is a concentration difference that occurs, right? So especially in the root cells, we know that the cells which are in contact with the soil, we know that they absorb ions also or minerals also. Now as a result, what happens? There is a difference in water concentration. So we know that due to this, there is a root pressure that gets created, and there is cell to cell osmosis that takes place, which ultimately allows or we see that ultimately water reaches the root xylem that is there. So the correct answer here is going to be root pressure. So this right here is important. Suction pressure, you can say, but suction is a word we use as a key term for transpiration pull. Yes? No problem. Give me keywords for the subjective questions. I always tell you. आएगा learning SB, मेरे side से तो नहीं आ रहा है तो आएगा. So 1 mark for this. Concentration gradient is difference in concentration, difference in the amount, right? Difference in the amount of water molecules or ions that are there. Yes? Maya, very happy to hear that you've got full marks in biology. Very happy to hear that. Yes? Moving on to the next part. Swati, while advising her little brother that eating unhealthy food will cause trouble in digestion, also explained the role of bile. She told him that bile does not contain any enzyme, but it is essential for digestion. Support Swati's view by giving a proper explanation. What is going to be the answer? You only tell me. Yes, what is going to be the answer for this? What is the key word? You don't give me the elaboration of it, I will explain the elaboration. I want the key word or the key process that is happening here. Yes? Very good, students. Very, very good. Proud of you. Exactly. Now, whenever you see bile, fat, all these are your keywords for telling you that in this case we're talking about emulsification. I will explain this process. Now, when you talk about the whole process of digestion, now we know that at the mouth, we know that digestion of starch or carbohydrate starts, because we know that salivary amylase has, salivary amylase will act on starch and digestion starts here. Next part, when we know that when it reaches the stomach, right? In the stomach, we know that pepsin is produced that acts on your proteins. But so far, we see that digestion of fat does not happen. The reason being that fats are large structures, right? Or they exist as large globules. And because they exist as large globules, what do we see? We see that even though we have things like gastric lipase or we have gastric lipase, and I think it's called linguistic lipase. I don't know, I'm not able to remember the lingual lipase. Yes, lingual lipase, even though lipase enzymes are produced in small amounts, they are not able to act on fat. And why are they not able to act on fat? Because of its large size, which is why first we need to break down the size, right? So we break down the size by this process of emulsification, where large globules of fat is broken down into smaller droplets. Yes, so they are broken down into smaller droplets so that we see that your lipase enzyme can act on it. And we know that the bile juice facilitates this. Now, what is there in bile juice? We know that there are bile salts, right? We have bilirubin, biliverdin, there are various bile salts, okay? Various components are there in bile. Now, all of them will act on this and thereby facilitate this process of emulsification. Yes? Alkaline medium is a process, but here they are talking about, she told him that although bile does not contain any enzyme, it is essential for digestion. And it is for 1 mark, so you have to mention emulsification, but you can also say it provides an alkaline medium for digestion. Yes? So serum again is basically the plasma part, right? The liquid part that is there, which is devoid of certain cellular objects, we call that as your serum. Yes? Bile salt. See, bile salts are present in bile. Team 7 guy. Yes? Okay. See, questions on serum and dark and light reaction. Ma'am, bile is basic. Alkaline. Yes. It's alkaline. Are we clear? There are 30 questions. Lymph also I will explain. Don't worry. Question number 13, this is how you will write the answer. So cells of root, so for the first part, they are in close contact, so they take up ions. We know that because there's more ions inside the root, we see that it creates an osmotic pressure or difference in water concentration, due to which osmosis of water will happen. Secondly, what do we see? Bile salts break down the fat and break it down into smaller droplets, which we call as emulsification. This of course ensures that lipase enzyme can act on it. Ma'am, can we also say that, can we say it contains bile salt, so it helps? See, Manya, bile salt helps and facilitates the process of emulsification, and because of the nature of bile, it makes it alkaline. Yes? Ma'am, in this type of question, we have to identify concept and apply. Not entirely. You have to identify which is the key point in this. This is not entirely application because they've directly given it to you about the fact that what she's exactly asking you about. So you need to mention the important pointers. Osmosis, movement of water molecules from a region of high concentration to low concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. Yes? No, that is different serum what you apply on skin. Those are different. Serum is basically a colorless fluid, right? So that's what that serum represents. Question number 14. Yes. Third chapter I'll cover soon. Name the substance other than water. So this is for all you students having doubt on kidneys and nephron. I hope I didn't leak the answer. Name the substances other than water that are reabsorbed during urine formation. What are the two parameters that decide the amount of water that is reabsorbed in the kidneys? Just give me one moment. Let me just get my water bottle. Very good, all of you. Very good. So as you all know, the substances other than water that are reabsorbed during urine formation, focus on, we are not talking about what is getting filtered, but what is getting reabsorbed. So we're talking about the important components. So we see that glucose, amino acids, important electrolytes like sodium, potassium, they are all reabsorbed. Yes? Now step number 2 is a little bit of application. What are the two parameters that decide how much water also has to get reabsorbed? So we know that there are important components like glucose, amino acids and electrolytes which are getting reabsorbed, because you know that that's important for my body. But what about the other cases in the case of amount of water? What will decide that this much amount of water has to be reabsorbed? Yes? It depends on how much water and how much waste. Very good. Very good, Agam. Good answer. Concentration. Okay. Yes, I remember all of you. Very good, Mohit. I saw one more keyword. Very good, Moksham. Yes, exactly. So now, let's go back. Now we know that the nephron that is there is the structural and functional unit of the kidneys. Yes. Now when you talk about the nephron, we know that the nephron starts with the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, and we know that the process of filtration takes place, where we know that blood along with all the impure, right, or rather I would say all the blood that has urea, it has all whatever components are there, including the good components, get filtered and they enter into the tubular part. In the tubular part we know reabsorption happens where important components are reabsorbed. But we also know that water that is there, it's passed into the tubular part. Now how much water should get reabsorbed? Two factors depend on it. One, of course, depends on how much of excess water is there in my body. Now, our body has the ability to maintain salt-water balance, right? So, it has the ability to maintain, and this particular process is not some process which is a single step thing. At multiple levels, we know that this kind of regulation takes place. But primarily, we know that it's done by the kidney because it maintains that water balance. So, first of all, it depends on how much of excess, this concept of excess water, how much is actually there in excess. Now, along with that, it also depends upon how much urea is present. How much urea should I actually excrete out? So, if I have this much urea, then I need this much amount of water to dissolve it and then excrete it out of my body. Which is why we see that in this case, amount of water reabsorbed depends upon how much of excess water is there and how much of dissolved waste is there that I need to get out of my body. The first part of it, of course, we have already answered. So, in this case, you will get 2 marks for the same. Yes? See, PCT is proximal convoluted tubule. DCT is distal convoluted tubule. Now, both these convoluted tubules play a very important role in regulating tubular absorption and tubular reabsorption and secretion. Yes? Function of bile pigment. Wait, ma'am, I am writing. Okay. Everyone take a screenshot because see, this is not directly given in your textbook. It is mentioned, but this is little bit of application. So take a screenshot of this and please write it down. Bile pigment, I'll rather say bile salts, they play a very important role in emulsification. ADH hormone is your anti-diuretic hormone which maintains your salt-water balance, right? Salt-water balance, okay? Ma'am, second point in bile juice ka question. Second point is nothing but when bile juice is there, what does bile juice do? It facilitates emulsification. Now, once emulsification has happened and your droplets have reduced in size, then we know that it helps or promotes the action of lipase. Yes? Ma'am, it is present in one note. Exactly, it is there. Hashtag PDF, hashtag Milega. I will fail. Angel, please, don't say that. No, don't say you will fail. You will do well. Maybe you didn't understand this concept, right? It's just that you probably did not understand the concept. So what I would recommend, you go watch the one shot of this particular video, read the NCERT thoroughly and you come back. It will help you. Okay? Moving on to the next one. Yes? Mention any 2 components of the blood. Trace the movement of oxygenated blood in the body. Ma'am, briefly explain double circulation. Question aa gaya hai for me to explain. Function of kidney. Function of kidney is formation of urine, getting rid of nitrogenous waste. I knew it. Components of blood. Read the question once again. Components of blood. What is the 2 components? RBC, WBC? Is it RBC, WBC? Yes. Now the answers are slowly coming. Now answers are slowly coming. Exactly. Now I'll explain this part in depth. Okay. Now we have the components of blood. What are the components? We know that blood that is there is a fluid connective tissue. Yes. And it connects different parts of my body and helps in transport of important substances. So we know that this is a fluid connective tissue. Now my blood here has 2 components. What are my 2 components? It is my fluid component. Now I will see many students telling me, ma'am, oh, and cellular component. Yes. What is my fluid component? It mainly includes my plasma. Now my plasma is the fluid. Yes, I was waiting for that. Plasma is the fluid part that is there. And we know that in plasma makes up 55% of blood. And if you look at the, if you look at the composition of plasma, almost 90% is made up of water. And along with that, we know that it has proteins, hormones and other substances. Yeah, I was waiting for that. Oh, very good. Now the remaining, you have cellular part. What is there in cellular part? You have your RBCs, you have your WBCs, and you have your platelets. Yes. Now your RBCs that are there are your red blood cells, and when you talk about your RBCs, we know that it has hemoglobin in it, and hemoglobin that is there is the red pigment which has affinity for oxygen. So thereby function of RBC is transport of oxygen. Yes, it is transport of oxygen. What about WBCs? They play a main role in defense, right? They are the ones which will get rid of any harmful substances or pathogens that will enter into my body. What about platelets? Many of you are asking me about platelets. Yes. Now platelets that are there are structures which help in the clotting of blood. So whenever we see that there is a wound, right? If there is a wound inside my body or on the outside, the platelets that are there are the ones which will come and they will seal that wound. So their main function is to facilitate clotting of blood. Now we know that blood is primarily responsible for transport of oxygen. So blood that is rich in oxygen is what we call as oxygenated blood. And we know that the circulatory system in our body is responsible for doing this. Now our body has the pump, or the main organ of my circulatory system is going to be my heart, right? So the human heart is a 4-chambered heart. So everybody who has doubts in this, pay attention now. I am explaining this for 5 minutes. 5 minutes mein pura ka pura I will finish explaining. Yes? Moksham is funny, Neha, but I am also funny. You listen to me also. Very good study guide. Very good everyone who's giving me the answers. Yes? Very good. Now here of course the human heart is a 4-chambered heart, and of course we know that the two upper chambers that are there are called as the receiving chambers. Yes. The two lower chambers that are there are what I call as the pumping chambers. Now along with that, I also see that my heart that is there is divided into the right side, and it is also divided into the left side. Yes. Now we know that the receiving chambers are called as atria or atrium. So in this case we know that the right atrium, then we have left atrium, right ventricle and left ventricle. So these are my 4 chambers based on the classification that we just saw. Now of course we see that the right side of the heart receives deoxygenated blood. Yes. So now here what do we observe? Deoxygenated blood is basically your blood that comes from different parts of the body, or blood that is having more concentration of carbon dioxide. So what will happen? We know that my body from different parts, right? We see that the vena cava that is there, which is one of the largest veins, will transport deoxygenated blood, and we'll take it to the right atrium. Now from the right atrium, it will go to the right ventricle, and the right ventricle will then pump this to the lungs, right? So we see that this right here will pump it to the lungs, and we know that the blood vessel that is going to be transporting this is going to be my pulmonary artery. Now pulmonary artery is the only artery which transports deoxygenated blood. Now once the blood gets oxygenated, what is going to happen? From the lungs, your pulmonary vein that is there, pulmonary vein is going to bring this blood. Yes. So pulmonary vein will bring it to the left atrium. It will go to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, we see that through the aorta, this oxygenated blood is transported to different parts. Now the question is asking for pathway. Or question is asking for pathway of oxygenated blood. So what is the pathway? This is not confusing. If you paid attention to me, this should be cakewalk. But it's simple. Koi nahi. Practice, practice, practice. It will be fine. Now we know that oxygenated blood should start from lungs through pulmonary vein to left atrium to left ventricle, from left ventricle to aorta to different parts of the body. Yes, we use atrium moksham more than oracle atrium. Are we clear? Are we all clear? Now quick question for everyone. How to write the answer? You will write the answer like this. So the two major components are fluid part and cellular part. You will get 1 mark for this. Trace the movement. There are two ways of doing it. You can elaborate it. Oxygenated blood from the lungs is brought to the left atrium by the pulmonary vein. When the atrium contracts, the blood goes to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, the blood is pushed into the aorta, and we see that through the arteries, it is transported to all parts of the body. So everybody, you can take a screenshot for this particular answer in case if you are not clear. Yes? Ma'am, will they ask, ma'am, what is the difference between pulmonary and systemic circulation? Pulmonary circulation is the circulation that takes place between heart and lungs. Pulmon means lungs. So the circulation that is happening between heart or lungs, that is the pulmonary circulation. Circulation that happens between heart and remaining body is what we call as systemic circulation. Are we clear? Function of valves is to prevent backflow of blood. Yes? They will not ask heart diagram. They will ask you to draw the schematic diagram of the double circulation that I just drew. Shall we move on? Shall I move on? This is question number 15. So 15 more questions to go. 15 more questions to go. Okay. Rubisco enzyme, Dhairya, is basically the enzyme that you see in plants. And we see that this plays a very important role during photosynthesis. So, we will learn more about it, don't worry. Okay. Let's move on to question number 16. Write any 4 functions of the nervous system. So simple. You give me any 4 functions. This is also for 2 marks, so half mark for each function. Coronary artery is the artery that supplies oxygenated blood to the heart. Who is this? Jane and others having conversations between each other. Exam nahi hai kya? You have to pay attention in class. Coordinate organs, carry nerve impulses, okay. Message sender, okay. Control and coordination, important role in reflex action. Now that you think about it, you're like, Arey ma'am, what is the function of nervous system? We've never even learnt about that. Think about it. Think about parts of the brain, what all functions they regulate. That is your answer. Very good. What is the function of nervous system? Think of it. Regulates involuntary actions. Yes or no? Plays a very important role in regulating your muscular actions, voluntary action. It helps us coordinate with our surroundings. It helps us think, reason, remember. We have all forgotten about the brain and its functions. So indirectly, what is the question asking you? So we know that when we learn about the brain, right, we know that cerebrum controls voluntary action. It is the site where thinking, memory takes place. You can also talk about, we know that when we learn about medulla, it regulates involuntary action. So indirectly, all of that is being regulated by the nervous system in itself, right? So, indirectly it's a function of CNS. Simple. Everybody's told me control coordination. Arey ma'am, nervous system means control coordination. Chapter name we have written over. 2 marks, we'll write 1 sentence, 1 mark only you will get. Because that is 1 point. So here and specifically they've asked you to put 4 functions. So which is why this is simple. Just they've twisted the question. That's all. So you can write all these functions. You will get 2 marks for the same. Right? Ma'am, can practice makes a person perfect. We may be good but no one is perfect. Right? No. I told you that. I'm only not perfect. Half the time, sometimes I also make some blunders. See, as much as I revise and I practice, I prepare, I come prepared for every class. Even though I've taught life process and control coordination 100 times, 100 times is the bare minimum that I've taught this chapter. But even then, I will still read the chapter, I will still prepare, I will still make sure I go through all the topics and then I come. Because, you know, it's not like I'm some superhuman. See, carotid arteries, it's not carotid, it's something else. It's not carotid, it's carotid. Carotid arteries. But anyways, it's a major trunk of the aorta. That's all. Is lymph a part of blood? Phoenix, no. Lymph, although originates from blood because lymph is formed from leaky channels where you have plasma and WBCs, lymph is another type of fluid connective tissue. Yes? Another type of fluid connective tissue. Moving on to question number 17. Easy peasy. Very simple. 2 marks. Give me one example of tropic movements. Positive phototropism, negative phototropism, positive geotropism, negative geotropism. You just need to tell me the parts. Positive phototropism, shoot towards light. You can say shoot towards light, or you can tell me movement of stem. I will take your answers, right? Movement of stem. What else is there? We have negative phototropism. What is there for negative phototropism? Very good. Root. Yes. Somebody asked me, ma'am, negative phototropism is there for angiosperms? Yeah, it's for all plants. Very good. Positive geotropism will again be root, because we know that this is geotropism means in response to gravity. So roots grow towards the direction of gravity. Last way we have negative geotropism. What will it be? Simple. So basically it is shoot, root, root, shoot. Arteries which provide. Very good. So now of course, as we all see in this case, this is all, I have beautiful slides, so I'm showing you. I'll explain lymph, don't worry. I will explain lymph once again, but can I explain it towards the end of the class once I finish? I'll do it towards the end. So very good all of you. Very good. Many of you have got the correct answer. Now of course in this case, you will get 2 marks for the same. Moving on to question number 18. How does control and coordination take place in plants? Now here, this is not, you can get this question for 3 marks. This can come for 3 marks. So I think it is important that all of you know how to approach this question. Ma'am, bio is my least favorite subject. My heart is broken. It's okay. Bio is simple. Let me tell you that. It's very simple. It's a little technical. That's all my concern is. It's a little more technical because physics and chemistry are more observation driven. No, biology is a little more technical, but it's not like it is not observation based. This is also observation based. But you have to be a little enthusiastic about the subject. Like when I was in school, I struggled a lot to understand physics. So I know how you feel. Why are we talking about Jawan and all? Kids, exam they're going to ask you doubt in that, is it? They're going to ask you questions on Jawan and what happened in the movie? Or are they going to ask you about how control coordination takes place? You tell me. Very good. Yes. Now of course in this particular case, right, Shrishti and many others, pay attention. Please pay attention. We know that control coordination that happens is mainly with the help of chemical messengers or phytohormones. Now we know that there are different types of phytohormones like auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, and of course we know that there are various and of course with the help of these phytohormones we see that they are able to grow. So control and coordination that takes place is primarily due to the help of the phytohormones that are there. Yes? So of course we know that as a result we also see that due to this, especially when it comes to coordinating, we observe movements. Now movements could be growth related or they could be non-growth related. Now this can come for 3 marks, where if it comes for 3 marks you can elaborate a little bit more on phytohormones, but if it comes for 2 marks then you just need to write 2 points. Easy peasy. Yes? Cosmotalk, Moksham, many others, I request you all. See, I am not going to scold you. You are old enough to be responsible. I request you all to pay attention in class. If you want to not pay attention today, you don't pay attention. It's okay. But there are many students who want to use their time wisely. So I request you not to distract the other kids who are here. Shrishti, yes. You're a big fan. But you pay attention in my class. Be a fan of bio. What are angiosperms? Angiosperms that are there are basically flowering plants. Yes? Okay. No problem, Dracula gaming. Oh, what happened, Mithun? Next 2 questions are simple. Match the following. Easy peasy. Ma'am, nervous system comes under brain control. Yes. Nervous system that is there, of course, is the primary. It's one of the coordinating systems. Brain is a part of your nervous system. Ma'am, what if pollen falls on another flower stigma or it will not germinate? There are certain specific chemicals for it to germinate. So that's why if you see if a pollen of a different, so very rarely we see that if a pollen of a different of maybe some random plant falls, it may not, right? Good book for bio, first NCRT, then exemplar. Then for questions, I actually would recommend Oswald more than the other books because I like the questions from Oswald. Very simple question, all of you. You will only be able to give me the answer. Neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Cyton that is there basically consists of the nucleus and cytoplasm. Your cyton is basically your cell body or soma. Then what do you have? Your dendrite. Yes. What is the dendrite? It is short but it is branched. So basically they are extensions of your cyton. Yes. Then what is your axon? Axon is the elongated nerve fiber. So this is the correct answer. C, D, A, B. Those of you who got this, well done. Match the following, I'll tell you, normally comes as MCQs. So you will get match the following as MCQs where the combination will be given from which you need to identify the correct answer. Nissel granules are granules which you normally find in the soma or the cyton. Yes. Geotropism ka other example, see Mithun, primarily it is root which is in response, right? So when we learning is root and shoot, there's not specificity to it. So normally we have it, but now there could be some, what do you say, modified parts, like in the case of, in some cases, right, like in banyan trees which have prop roots and everything, that grows downwards, which is also positively geotropic because it's growing towards gravity. But again, it comes under the broad categorization of root. Ma'am, are humans aerobes or anaerobes? Hey, we are aerobes. Without air, we'll survive. No. We are aerobes. Next question. Question number 20. Okay. Awesome, Savita. So happy that you found it easy. Next up. Photoreceptor, gustatory, olfactory, phono. You have 3 on the other side from which you need to identify the correct answer. Amir, I have answered your question. Now students, I hope all of you have hit the like button on the video. I see that we are far away from our like target. So jaldi go ahead and hit the like button. Very good. So we have photoreceptors. Shrishti, please don't spam. I'm only requesting you. Thank you, Shringesh. So photoreceptors, photo means light. This is so easy. You should all be getting the answer. Photo means light. Gustatory that is there is taste. Then olfactory that is there is smell. Then what do we have? Phono, which is sound. Sorry. And phono, which is sound. So DCAB again. I have a fan here. No AC. So my hair is flying. Parthenocarpy is basically when you induce, right, or when fruits are formed without pollination and fertilization, Cyril. Thymus is mainly responsible for producing, your thymus that is there is responsible for producing thymosin, and they play a very important role in producing a type of WBC called as T cells. Yes? Okay. Moving on to question number 21. 3 marks. How is the brain protected from injury and shock? Yes? How is it protected from injury and shock? This is going to be 1 mark. Name the 2 parts of hindbrain and state their function. 2 marks. 2 things are here. Let me focus. I will break it down. Half and half mark. So if you give me cerebrospinal fluid only, you will get half mark. So what should you mention? What should you mention? Just give me 1 moment. The chat has stopped on my screen. Okay. Very good, all of you. Very good. Yes. Now, as we all know, the brain that is there, right, it is protected by a bony casing which is called as the cranium. right? So we see that it is protected by a bony box called as cranium. But apart from that, we also know that the brain that is there has a membranous covering called as meninges, which between the meninges we have the cerebrospinal fluid. So we know that from physical injury the cranium protects it, while in the meninges the cerebrospinal fluid will absorb shock, right? So we see that this right here is the answer. It is a very oversimplified diagram of the brain. So the answers are cranium and cerebrospinal fluid. Ma'am, what are types of forebrain? Forebrain mein you have cerebrum, which occupies the largest part. Then you have hypothalamus, which is responsible for controlling temperature and regulating body temperature. Then you have thalamus that is there, which acts as a relay center. So Anna or Anu, I hope you are clear. Yes? Okay. Awesome. Ma'am, what is liquid called? Cerebrospinal fluid. Yes. Ma'am, what does hypothalamus produce? There are neurosecretory cells that control the pituitary. So hypothalamus, like how you always tell, no, is the master of master gland. Okay? Now next up, as you can see, we have what are the two main parts of hindbrain? Cerebellum, very good. So we have cerebellum and we have medulla oblongata. What is the function of cerebellum? What is the functions of cerebellum? Oh, medulla oblongata. Very good. Cerebellum that is there regulates or maintains body balance and body posture. Beautiful. What is the function of medulla oblongata? Regulates all the involuntary actions. Simple, right? So you can write these points down. Now somebody was asking me, ma'am, what's the function of pons? Pons is a respiratory center or regulates the respiratory functions, right? Very simple and easy. So when you write this down, 3 marks, which means 1 mark for this, 2 marks for writing and telling me the functions of cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Diencephalon is basically your hypothalamus and thalamus together. So diencephalon may you see that hypothalamus has its own functions while thalamus has its own functions. I've already elaborated on that. Very good. Pons you can write, but in your textbook if you see pons is not mentioned. So why would you want to write something about pons, right? Kamlesh, you pay attention to class. You fall in love with control coordination and life process. There is only thalamus, no epithalamus and all. I mean, you just need to learn about. Ma'am, is hypothalamus in forebrain? Yes. Relay center means it's a point from which information goes to different parts, right? Why does spinal cord control reflex action and not brain? I've already explained this. Spinal cord regulates all the reflexes below the neck, and we know that because reflex actions have to be quick, spinal cord takes the decision but also sends an information to the brain. It is to just make the process quick. Yes? Very good. 9ish. Every Wednesday, 7 p.m., you will have class with me or Ankita ma'am, right? Ma'am, what is the hormone name? There is no hormone produced by hypothalamus. They produce certain chemicals that regulate functioning. Hormones are produced by endocrine glands. Yes? Lobes, you don't need to know cerebrum ka. NCERT mein it is not there. Ma'am, aren't olfactory lobe and diencephalon types of forebrain? No. Diencephalon is different, part of forebrain. Olfactory lobe, optic lobe, temporal lobe, these are lobes of the brain that is there. Slightly different. 10 more minutes, I'll finish off the class. Cranium, bony box. Ma'am, are eye reflexes controlled by brain? Yes. Write 3 points of difference between respiration in plants and respiration in animals. We have already discussed this in greater detail, right? Arey, don't be sad. Don't be sad, anyone. Why are you guys being sad? No. Chill hai. Ma'am, cerebellum or inner... Okay. Now when you talk about respiration in plants, right? So when you talk about respiration in plants, so I'm going to remove this point, right? So we know that in the case of respiration in plants, we know that there's no physical process of respiration. I mean physical process of breathing, while in our case we have breathing. We know that gaseous exchange happens in stomata, gaseous exchange happens in the alveoli, carbon dioxide can be utilized for photosynthesis, while carbon dioxide cannot be utilized and is expelled out. Yes? Ma'am, aap to respond hi nahi karti ho. When did I not respond? Ankita ma'am is awesome. That I will now never disagree. She is damn awesome. But if I miss some doubt of yours, please let me know. Okay. So in this, of course, any 3 points you write, you will get 3 marks for the same. Yes? Okay. Moving on to, are we all clear with this question, students? Are we all clear? Yes or no? Are we clear? Yes. Do you want a 2-minute water break? Before we finish off the questions, can we take a 2-minute water break? ये question 3 mark के लिए आएगा. 2 minutes. Okay, I will take a 2-minute water break if you don't mind. So I'll give you a small 2-minute water break and then we'll finish off today's class. Okay. So we will resume at 8:25 p.m. I'm going to give you 3 minutes bonus. So it's a water break. Fatafat go drink some water and we will come back. Okay. Yes. You guys don't want to drink water, it's okay, but I'll go drink water and come. 2 minutes. Yes? Okay, students, I'm back. I hope that you had a good break. Yes. Ma'am, can you revise plant functions? Okay, ma'am, EduCard reference books are good. They are good for sample papers and practice, right? That is definitely helpful. Thank you, Ritika. Thank you. Yes. I'm not, you all are taking me not answering very seriously. It's not, I'm not doing this intentionally. I sometimes just miss out doubts. Please understand that I'm also human. The chat is running at such fast pace, right? I'm not sure, Cyril, but I think it's something that has to affect the thyroid gland. Yes. Okay, the chat does move pretty fast. Ma'am, what reference books do you use? You really want to know what reference book I use? Because when I do it, I actually read NCERT first. Then I go through exemplar topics, questions, so I learn what is extra. And for all the important topics that I do, I normally read higher grade textbooks so that in case if you ask me a higher grade topic, I'll be able to answer. So normally what I do a lot of reading with respect to maybe other boards, like I also have experience teaching ICSE board, so I know a lot of extra topics that come from ICSE which are foundation level based. I know 11th, 12th grade topics also, so I read a lot. Mine is not the best. I do a lot of prep for class, which is why. Ma'am, in real life examples are asked or not? Real life examples can be used as, real life questions that are there, they'll not, When you're saying real life, they could ask you instances. What would you do if this happens and all of that? Those are inferences. Okay. Hello, Malika. Hello. Yes. I do. I just read a lot. Like, that's just me inherently. Okay. Case study type questions could come. What group did I take in 11th? PCMB. Yes. I took PCMB. Biology was there. MTG is a good reference. Like, see, there are many in the market, but like I always tell, it's important that you read NCRT end to end. You have you even have, you know, Lakshmi Singh, Manjeet Kaur, if you want textbook based or practice based one. Okay. Okay, what is it? What are these titles? I get very scared when I read all that. I am from Bangalore. Who asked this question? Aditya asked me, ma'am. Aditya was like, ma'am, I want a question on feedback mechanism. Here you go. Yes. So as you can all see, we see that what is feedback mechanism of hormonal, I'll keep it as that. Hormonal regulation. Take the example of insulin in order to explain the phenomena. So sweet, Queen 7B. What are the nitrogenous base? It's your ATGC, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. They are your nitrogenous bases. Tanmay, if you're not able to learn from me, it's okay. Don't spam. It's okay. I'm unaffected, but try to not unnecessarily spam in chat. Simple as that. Now, what is the feedback mechanism? Feedback mechanism that is there is basically the fact that we know that hormones that are there. Yes? We will discuss books again towards the end. Now you come back to class. We know that hormones that are there need to be produced in a specific amount, right? We know that hormones by our body needs to be secreted in a specific amount, and that too levels of hormones need to be regulated, right? So as you can see, we need to make sure that in the case of insulin, so let's take the example of insulin. Now when there is what is the function of insulin? We know that insulin is a hormone which is produced by the pancreas, and we know that when there is a lot of blood or when there's a lot of sugar in the blood, so or I can say when there's a lot of blood glucose levels in the or high glucose level in the blood, we know that that is a signal for the pancreas to secrete more amount of hormone or more amount of insulin, so that insulin can do its function. What is the function of insulin? Insulin's function is to make sure that certain cells of our body can take up the glucose, and excess of glucose that is there can be converted to glycogen, right? So that is the function. Now what will happen? Now we see that as this process takes place, the blood sugar level will decrease. Now when blood sugar level decreases, this is a site, or this is this is a signal for the pancreas to reduce the production, right? So as you can all see, this is the main points you have to write. Hormones are secreted in extremely less quantities. Now too much of hormones or very less hormones can be bad for our body. So a feedback mechanism, what will it do? It will control the timing and the secretion of the hormone, which are released by various glands. Now in the case of our body, or in the case of insulin, as you see, we see that rise of blood glucose level, or we see that when there is too much glucose in the body, we see that it sends an information to the pancreas to secrete more insulin, so that cells can take up the glucose and excess glucose can be converted to glycogen. While when the glucose level dips, we know that the amount of insulin produced will be reduced. Are we clear? Are we all clear? Yes or no? This is very, very important. This can come even for 5 marks. Now, if this comes as 5-mark question, that time don't keep blinking at the question and say, man, there was a day when Aishwarya ma'am taught this question 3 times. When I did control coordination, I discussed this. When I'm doing this particular revision, I have discussed feedback mechanism. So you know how important feedback mechanism is. Yes or no? Are you clear? Ma'am, no. See, basically feedback mechanism is to make sure that too much or too less is not produced. Can you explain once again? Sure. Now this is my bloodstream. Okay. In my bloodstream, after I eat a yummy pizza meal, I see that the amount of glucose that is there inside my blood is very high. Now when there is too much glucose in my blood, We know that this glucose needs to be utilized by my cells. So we see that an information, or this is a signal so that pancreas that is there can produce insulin. Now what will this insulin do? Insulin will be secreted into the bloodstream. And when insulin comes into the bloodstream, we know that insulin will do two things. It will tell certain cells of my body that glucose is available, so take up the glucose from the blood. While if there is excess of glucose, what will it do? Now after the cells took up the glucose also, I see that there is excess glucose. So when there is excess of glucose, it will convert it to glycogen and it will store it. Now what has happened? We see that my level of glucose in the blood has come down. Now do I really need so much insulin? No, I don't need to do that, which is why the level of insulin will be decreased. So here if you see the amount, right, it controls the timing and how much hormone needs to be secreted. Manya, there's a respiration in one shot explained by Ankita ma'am. You can just search for respiration in one shot by Ankita ma'am. You will be able to find it. Yes. How to control high blood sugar? High blood sugar levels. Wait, high blood sugar or high pressure? I don't remember. Is it high blood sugar level or high blood pressure? I did not read it. Ma'am, you know the same question. I know this question will come. This is very common. Hypertension. Okay. So basically high blood pressure. Now high blood pressure that is there could happen due to multiple reasons. There are multiple factors for high blood sugar. High blood pressure, sorry. Now one of it could be the fact that in the inner linings of the arteries or in the blood vessels, there is deposition of cholesterol. So when there is deposition of cholesterol, this can narrow the pathway, thereby increasing the blood pressure. So we see that medication needs to be taken to reduce cholesterol levels. So that is one aspect of high blood pressure. Now another reason could also be due to maybe sometimes people develop high blood pressure due to maybe various other, like if there is tumor growth, or there are multiple reasons. Stress is also one contribution of high blood pressure. Yes. Ma'am, insulin related diabetes. See, diabetes is a condition where either due to lack of insulin or due to insulin resistance, there is high blood glucose levels, right? So that is one thing. Insulin injection, Neha, yes, that's type 1 diabetes actually. Thank you so much. Thank you. Question number 24. Take less stress, eat medication to control high blood pressure. Okay. The mic is not broken. My voice sounds like that. I have a sore throat. Question number 24 is what is hemoglobin? What will happen if there is deficiency of hemoglobin? Question related to books I will take towards the end. Very good, Neha. What is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is actually a red pigment, or it's a protein. Actually, it's a protein. It's a globin protein. So we see that hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment / protein, whatever you want to write. We see that in this case, we know that this is present in the red blood cells, and we know that this particular hemoglobin has high affinity towards oxygen, right? So we see that it has high affinity towards oxygen, thereby helping in the transport of oxygen to different parts. Now what will happen if there is deficiency of hemoglobin in our bodies? Now if there is deficiency, we know that it can cause anemia, and we know that as a result there will be lesser number of blood. Deficiency of hemoglobin can cause a condition called as anemia and can also decrease the oxygen capacity. Easy peasy. Yes. So here 1 mark for telling me what is the function of hemoglobin, 2 marks for telling me about the consequences of it. Or the marking scheme could get split as 1.5 here, and it could get split as 1.5 here. Yes, 2 ways in which. Anemia is a condition where there is deficiency of iron in your diet, and as a result you are not able to produce enough hemoglobin. So for hemoglobin, iron is a very important component, right? Yes, beautiful animation. Hemoglobin protein, this is your oxygen which is binding, high affinity. Okay. I will take that question about how to identify. How to identify the different parts of the brain. See, your brain diagram will come like this. How to identify the different parts? Your brain diagram will come looking something like this. This is one angle. This is the other angle. Now in your textbook, this is the angle which is given. So here, always remember the part, remember this part, okay? This is your pituitary gland, the sac-like structure. Wherever this sac-like structure is there, this direction is the front side. And wherever you see this whole tree-like thing, no, that is the back side. Now once you are able to establish front and back, the rest of it is easy. Easy way. Brain diagram is important, but it will not come for drawing. So don't take stress. Now I will move on to my next question, which is what is reflex arc and describe the pathway. What is reflex arc? We know that it is the shortest route taken by the nerve impulse during a reflex action. Yes? Now of course, as we all know, how will it go? The receptor detects the stimulus, sensory neuron will transport, and we know that it will take it to the central nervous system, inside which the relay neuron is present. Then of course we know that the spinal cord will process the information, take the decision, and we know that motor neuron will carry the information all the way to effector, and we have the response. Easy peasy. This can come for 5 marks or it can come for 3 marks because it has been very commonly asked in the examination. So please make it a point that you write this down. Now another way they can ask you, one more question they can ask you is, why is reflex arc, or why is it that reflex action is something we see across all living organisms? So we know that right from primitive animals to advanced animals, reflex action is common. Now we know that reflex action, or this pathway of having the shortest route is, reflex action, which is like an involuntary action, is very, very important because it protects us from danger, which is why we know that it is something that we have carried forward across different organisms. Yes, ma'am, moving. Reflex arc diagram may not come. Oh, that is something you can tell me. I actually don't know the answer. I have not read about it, but I'll get back to you on that. Yes. Synapse is the fine covering or a fine gap that is present between axonal end and the dendritic end. Affinity means love, is in simple words if I tell you. Hemoglobin loves oxygen, so wants to transport it. Case based, see, board exam में case based will come mainly from our environment and from heredity and evolution. But in rare cases, it may come from life process and of course from control coordination. But I still have some questions for the same. Yes? Moving on. Name the organs that form the excretory system in the body. Describe briefly how urine is produced. Yes? See, smell and all of that. So basically your sensory impulses are detected by the forebrain. For those of you who are asking me. Yes. See, although Jeevan, body posture and body balance that is there, it is regulated by the cerebellum. But we know that, see, inner ear that is there is also responsible for maintaining body balance. But any changes in that is not. So if there's a change in that, no, that is detected by the cerebellum, which detects change in body posture. It's as simple as that. So now, name the organs that form the excretory system. It is nothing but your kidneys, we have your ureter, urinary bladder and urethra. These are the 4 parts. Now of course, they're talking about steps in urine formation. Now of course, we know that it starts with filtration that happens in the glomerulus, where the blood along with the nitrogenous waste is filtered out. Now in this particular case, we observe that not only urea, but we also see important components like glucose, amino acids, all of that gets filtered here, right? Now from here it moves into the tubular part, wherein we know that all the important components like glucose, amino acids, we know that they get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, and along with that excess water, if at all there is some water that needs to be reabsorbed, that is also reabsorbed, right? And finally we see that urine formation takes place in the tubular part, and then it goes to the collecting duct where the urine is collected. Okay? So you need to write 3 keywords: filtration, tubular secretion and reabsorption, and finally urine formation. Yes? Okay. Ninesh, which animation do you want to see? You just rewind back and see that animation. I went back for you. Are we clear? Are we all clear? What is pituitary gland, Prasanna? Pituitary gland is an endocrine gland which is located at the base of the brain. It is a P-shaped gland which produces growth hormone. This class is absolutely free for all of you. Moving on to some case-based questions. Yes, my favorite. Ma'am, why do we drink water if all the energy is provided by the food? That is because in order to absorb certain nutrients, you require water. So many parts of your body. Your blood in itself is made up of water. Plasma, that is, there is a fluid component, which in itself is 97% odd is made up of water. Inside cytoplasm, many water-based, your cytoplasm has some amount of water. So we require water. Yes? Okay. Now moving on. Seema, I have answered your question. Moving on to this question. The liquid connective tissue A circulates in our body continuously without stopping. It consists of a pigment B which imparts a color C. Tissue A consists of 4 components D, E, F and G. The component D fights infection and protects us from diseases. Component E helps in clotting and clotting of tissue A if a person gets a cut. Okay. If the component F in a liquid which is mainly consists of water with many okay. Easy peasy. Let's first identify what is A, B, C, D, E, F and we have G. No? Now go back. Very simple. What is A? A is a liquid connective tissue, which means A right here is blood. Very good. What is B? We saw that this tissue contains a pigment B. Ma'am, B is hemoglobin. Okay, let me write your answers on screen. B is hemoglobin as per many of you. Okay. Now, which imparts a color C. So, all of you are saying, ma'am, C is red color. Now, we are saying that it consists of 4 components D, E, F and G. Okay, now we have D, E, F and G. Okay. Now, let's have a look. Now, we see that D is something that helps us fight infection. So what is that? The WBCs of our blood helps fight infections. Then what about E? It says that E helps in the clotting of tissue A. So E is nothing but our platelets that help in the clotting of blood. So this is clotting of blood. Now the component F is a liquid which mainly consists of water with many substances dissolved in it. And the component G carries the oxygen from the lungs to all parts of the body. What is it? Very good. So F right here is plasma, right? Now F right here is plasma and G is the component that carries it. So what should it be? Very good, Cosmo Talk. Very good, all of you. This is nothing but RBC, right? So we have identified this. But now is when the question will come. Now they've asked, this is not blogger, this is pigment B. So we have identified tissue A, which is nothing but blood. We have identified pigment B, which is nothing but our, let me go back, pigment B, which is hemoglobin. Our color C, which is nothing but red, right? Color C is red. Simple. Next up, D, E, F, G, we have all identified white blood cell, platelet, plasma and red blood cells. Simple. Question ho gaya. 2 marks, 2 marks, 4 marks you have easily got here. Now it's not neurojunction, it is neuromuscular junction, which is a synaptic which is a junction present between the axon terminal and the muscle. Yes. Next up, thyroid gland is a bilobe structure situated in our neck, which secretes a hormone thyroxine. Iodine is necessary to make this. It regulates metabolism, promotes growth of some tissue. When there is excess, hyperthyroidism is there. When there is less, hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism is normally measured by doing some test. Cool, cool, cool. Easy peasy, we've all discussed this, right? I know, see, case based is 4 free marks at all times. Now in this question, for this case based, your answer is already there in the question itself. Question is asking, where is the thyroid gland located? In the neck region. Where is the thyroid gland located? I gave the answer itself. So it is located in our neck region. 1 mark you will get easily. See, basically this is like copying from the question paper. It's as simple as that. throat, neck region. I know, case based. Let me go back and say that case based from these type of questions is free marks. But when you look at heredity questions, they will not be so easy. They will be little more application based. Okay? 1 mark here. Next question. Function of thyroxine in human body. What is the function of thyroxine? You all tell me. Again, it is there. It regulates carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. Simple. So the main function is, we know that thyroxine is secreted by thyroid glands, plays a main role in regulating carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. 1 mark for this. Ma'am, question पूछना है, पूछ लो. Last thing, what is hyperthyroidism? How can we control hypothyroidism? This is 2 marks. 1 mark for telling me what is hyperthyroidism. What is hyperthyroidism? Hyperthyroidism, that is there. We see that in hyperthyroidism, we know that this is a condition when there is excess of thyroxine which gets produced in our body, right? Not overweight, when there is excess of thyroxine. Yes? So this is a condition when there is excess of thyroxine produced, and this condition, this is for extra information, it's called as exophthalmic goiter when there is hyperthyroidism. Now, how can we regulate hypothyroidism? Now, if hypothyroidism is caused due to deficiency of iodine, then you need to incorporate more iodine into the diet so that we can prevent hypothyroidism from happening. Yes, study guide. That's also called as Graves' disease. So you can mention this in both ways, right? Now somebody told me, ma'am, bye-bye. Now somebody here told me that, ma'am, most often, Ritika, question papers, ma'am, but in most of my question papers, it has no connection. I know, in most cases that is the case. Like I said, with biology for our environment and of course for heredity and evolution, it will have no relation. They will have no relation to the question. You'll have to infer and write the answer. It's just here that it's simple. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone which is produced by your pituitary gland that will control the production of thyroxine by thyroid. Yes? Are we clear? We'll move on to the second last question. This is very important. This will come for 5 marks or this can come for 3 marks. Explain the process of breakdown of glucose in a cell in the presence of oxygen and in the absence of oxygen. Now my question to all of you is, there is a beautiful flow chart given to us. Will you draw this flow chart? Yes or no? Will you draw this flow chart? Yes or no? Lallu. It is absolutely Lallu question. Exactly. You will draw the flow chart. So we know that glucose of course gets broken down into 6 carbon glucose will get broken down into 3 carbon pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Now in the presence of oxygen, we know that pyruvate will be broken down completely in order to release energy in the form of ATP, and of course carbon dioxide and water is given out as a byproduct. In the lack of oxygen, what do we see? In the lack of oxygen in the skeletal muscles of my body, we know that in the skeletal muscles it will be broken down incompletely to release ATP and it gives out lactic acid as a byproduct. Now in the case of yeast, if you don't write this, you will lose marks. So you have to say where. So here you can say mitochondria, you can mention all this. Of course we have put pictures, but you write it down. Yes? Hero's son. Exactly. So in the absence of oxygen in yeast, we know that ethanol and carbon dioxide is produced. Very good. So you can elaborate it. Of course, in this case, you can elaborate it in greater detail, but you can draw the, see, you can't just draw the flow chart and leave, okay? CBSE will not give you full marks for just drawing flow chart. If you get it for 5 marks, along with the answer, you can support your answer with a flow chart. Yes? Ma'am, they asked us to answer this question. See, draw the flow chart and do the explanation also. See, if they ask you, so Ritika, if they've asked you only for diagram, then only draw diagram. Easy. Now, team 7 guy, what is Contractile proteins are special proteins which you find, like actin, myosin, which you find inside muscle cells that help in the contraction and relaxation, right? Somebody was asking me, ma'am, trigger of mature leaves, and fruits of plants due to which hormone? Mature leaves falling down is because of abscisic acid. Making sure that fruits are ripening, that is ethylene. Oh, mehnat. क्यों? Use of lactic acid, it's a byproduct. Accumulation of lactic acid can cause cramps. ठीक है? Last question for today. 5-mark question. Write the difference between inhalation and exhalation. 1 mark. State the role of liver and pancreas. Sorry, this is 2 marks. Name the organ. This is 2 marks. Simple. Yes. Difference between inhalation and exhalation. I don't even want to go to slides. I just want to finish answering it here. What is inhalation and exhalation? Easy peasy. Ma'am, lactic acid is related to milk, na? Then how in muscles? This is like telling, ma'am, protein is there inside food. Then how protein in my body? Think about it this way. All these are chemical components, right? And ultimately our body is a big existence of chemical reactions happening, okay? So it's not that if lactic acid is present in food, my body is incapable of it. It is just that due to the, if you look at the pyruvate structure and when it breaks down incompletely, it gets converted to lactic acid. So it's as simple as that. Okay. Simple. Ma'am, how can we find out how much mark each question is? They'll give you Pavitra, I'm hoping. Section A, B, C, D, they will give you marks. This bifurcation also, they will give you marks in the exam. If subparts are there, they will definitely tell you. Inhalation is taking in air rich in oxygen, giving out air. Exhalation is nothing but giving out air rich in carbon dioxide. Simple. Lactic acid is produced as a byproduct of anaerobic respiration. Role of liver and pancreas. Now we know that the liver that is there is responsible for producing bile juice, and we know that bile juice that is there, of course, is responsible or plays a key role in emulsification and also creates an alkaline medium for the action of pancreatic juice. Now on the other hand, when we talk about pancreas, we know it's a leaf-like organ located behind the stomach which produces pancreatic juice. Now your pancreatic juice is filled with enzymes that facilitate or play a key role in carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. Now last one, where does absorption of digested food takes place? Where does the absorption of digested food take place? Ma'am, in inhalation and exhalation, they have not asked you for mechanism. So don't write about mechanism and waste your time. Okay? Only main point of difference. That's all. Because it's only for 1 mark. No, if they ask you mechanism, you can write in detail. Very good. This is small intestine. Absorption or reabsorption of water. Where will this happen? Iska ulta. Very good. This happens in large intestine. Yes? Ma'am, if somebody is frequently urinating, which could be the hormone responsible? Antidiuretic hormone, right? So we see that antidiuretic hormone has a very important role to play. So these are some beautiful slides for all of you for the answer, which our team has worked very hard. But of course, Trupti ma'am will tell, Aishwarya ma'am, you don't even use any slides that I give you. Normally because I like writing. But this is for all of you when the PDF comes. PDF, tomorrow you will get it on the Telegram channel. So you can write the answer and there you go. We come to the end of today's class. 30 questions done. Now very quickly students, I want to ask you, what is your confidence level at? How are you feeling confident? Like how much are you feeling confident about life process and control coordination? Yes? How are you feeling confident? I mean, how confident are you feeling? Yes. Normal ma'am. 11 out of 10, 100, 1000. High, full marks. Okay. Now I know many of you here, we've come to the end of the class, but before I wind up the class, I have a question for all of you. How many of you here want me to explain lymph one last time? How many of you want me to explain lymph? Now those of you who know what is lymph and you know the function and you want to drop off from the class, you can leave and go. It's okay, I'll not hold you back because you will have to study more. Now, I mean, you'll have other things to study, but before you go, all of you who know what is lymph, let me know in the comments below as to what are the functions of lymph. But for the others who are very worried about, ma'am, ye lymph kya hota hai? I don't know what is lymph. I think I will never understand lymph as a concept. I will explain it. So all of you stay back, okay? You guys stay back for those of you who don't know what is lymph. But for the others who know what is lymph, it's okay. Ritika, vasopressin. Vasopressin is basically your antidiuretic hormone, right? Salt water balance. Platelets also. Ma'am, I don't know, ma'am. Are you saying I don't know for that? Are you saying I don't know what is lymph? Is that what you are saying? Or you're just saying, ma'am, I don't know if I want to stay or go? Transportation. Saujit, there is a transportation in one shot which I have taken. You watch that video, put it in 2x, you will understand. ADH and all is not there in NCRT. So you don't need to worry about the fact that questions will come. Okay, I'll explain lymph for all of you. Now you'll have to bear with me because I'll have to draw a lot, right? Now, we know that in our blood vessels, now everybody has to pay attention to me. Pay attention, okay? Now we know that in our body, we have various blood vessels. Now what are our three types of blood vessels? Our first type of blood vessel that is there is basically our artery, which is carrying oxygenated blood, right? Now, we know that the arteries that are there, they'll start branching out, right? So, they'll start branching out and they will become narrower blood vessels, which we call as arterioles, right? So, it's kind of like a tree now. Now, from here, what will happen? We know that these guys that are there will further branch out to form single-celled structures, right? Now, of course, I'm making it as simple as possible. Now they will further branch out and they will form single cell thick, very thin vessels called as capillaries, right? So we know so much so far. We are all clear with this, right? We know that these are the type of blood vessels that we see. Now this will ultimately, what do we know? Wait 1 second, let me just draw the diagram. Now finally, just give me 1 moment, I'm quickly drawing this. Now that I have committed to drawing, I have to draw. There could be some mistakes, please don't mind. Okay, somewhat I've got it. So now of course, as we all see, right? So we know that these are my capillaries. These are my capillaries. Now at my capillaries, what will happen? We know that oxygenated blood comes all the way from the artery. It transports it, branches into arterioles, reaches my capillaries. Now at my capillaries, I know that gaseous exchange takes place or transport takes place here. Now we should be more concerned about what is happening at the capillaries, right? So if I zoom in here, now if I take what is happening inside. Now if this is my capillary, if this is my single blood vessel, right? It's a single part of my capillary. It is providing, or we know that it is going around all the cells, right? It is surrounding the cells so that exchange can happen. Now of course what will happen here is that these capillaries are like leaky channels. So in these capillaries or in these blood vessels, we see that there could be some leaks. Now think of it as pipes in your house. Now how many of you have noticed that normally in the bathroom or sometimes maybe outside your house, how many of you have noticed that there are these some pipes, no? There will be some pipes in your house and we know that from there thodu water will be dropping, right? It will be proper, not like there's some big hole and one big leak that is there. Some chotu sa, one small place will be there from which water will be coming down, right? Normally what will happen inside your house, even in the normally if you look at the bathrooms, in the tap also sometimes the tap will be leaking, right? When the tap leaks, what will happen? You will put one bucket there so that you can collect all this water, right? You don't want to waste water. We are that way as Indian households, we don't want to waste anything. What will we do? Whatever, if there's a leaking pipe, leaking something, our parents will go keep one bucket there and they'll collect all this water and they'll maybe put it to the plants, or in some cases, you know, if it is leaking from the tap, that could be used for washing or cleaning, right? We use this water basically. Now think of this leak that is happening here. This leak that is happening, a very similar leak happens inside our body. Now these channels that are there, we see that there are some leaks which take place. So eventually what will happen, if these are my cells, right? So if these are all my cells, if I draw an enlarged version, then I will see that there is some leak. So there could be some substances which is leaking out. Now what will leak? We see that mainly plasma, whatever can ooze out through that gap, okay? It will be one fine gap that will be there. So it's a fine gap. So what can move out through this? Normally I can see that my plasma. So I see that my plasma and my WBCs can leak, right? So plasma and my WBCs have leaked. Now where has it leaked to? It has leaked to in and around my cells, right? All these yellow color things that you see. These are all my cells. And now my plasma and my WBCs have leaked and it is now surrounding my cells. Yes? So if it is surrounding my cells like this, it is outside my cell, not inside. So it is extra. Now extracellular, because it is outside my cell and it is a fluid. So I will call this as extracellular fluid, or what else will I call this? I will also call this as tissue fluid. Are we clear so far? Yes or no? Are we all clear? Plasma and different types of WBCs. And why WBCs are able to get out? Because of their shape, the amoeboid shape that they have. Now, ma'am, is lymph acting as a middleman between blood and tissue? It's not a middleman. No middleman. Okay? Ma'am, in our eyes, capillaries, there is a leak. So, tiny leak, right? It's a small, they call as leaky channels. Now, it cannot be that leak is happening and all this fluid is accumulating inside around my cells, right? You imagine after one point if everything leaks out of my capillaries, what is left in my blood? Half of my plasma and WBC is gone. So what will happen? They will find a way to drain this. So if, think about it again, if there is normally, right, if your sink is drained, right, so if your wash basin that is there, if the sink is drained, what will you do? It is clogged with water, right? Now it is clogged with water because something is covering. So when you unclog it or you find a way to drain, all this water will now go, right? Because now it is found a way to, what do you say, get drained out. So similarly, when I say that when it drains, this is what I mean. So all of this water, all this tissue fluid that is there, it will get drained into a different channel, right? And what is this different channel? That is my lymphatic vessels. So I see that there are lymphatic, there are these lymphatic vessels which will drain my tissue fluid, right? So we see that all of this will get drained. And now what will it result in the formation of? When my tissue fluid goes into my vessel, it will become lymph, right? So lymph is like a not a backup, but lymph is basically a part of your blood which has leaked out, right? And it's not like when it leaks out, we also see that some components come with it. So we see that lymph forms your lymphatic vessel. Air will not leak out. There is no air leaking. Where is air leaking? Air will not leak out. Gaseous exchange takes place. So now your lymph is there. Now this lymph will also circulate for a brief period of time. It will circulate, and of course we know that primarily it helps with defense because it mainly has a lot of your WBCs and your lymphocytes, so it helps us with defense. And of course, as you all know, we see that in some cases it also helps with transportation. Now main point of difference is lymph is colorless. Now somebody is asking me, learning SB, why RBC and WBC cannot go? Because of the shape of RBC and WBC. RBCs are discoid in shape, while WBCs are amoeboid, which means that they are flexible enough to squeeze through and go, right? Which is why we see that again there is a channel, Nana, there's a proper way in which the lymph can flow. Now finally what will happen? We see that in this case, your lymph has become separate. Now your lymph is being formed from your blood only technically. All that plasma and WBC is coming from the blood. Now the volume needs to be maintained. So it's not like lymph will suddenly form its own channel. Whatever got drained will go back. So the larger veins that are there, larger veins, we see that the lymph vessels will go and there will be points at which they will drain out, right? So ma'am, lymph have their own vessels, they have their own vessels. Lymph is pretty similar to proteins, and they have relatively lesser proteins than your blood, but they do have proteins. So now are you all clear? Meera, I'll tell you what are platelets, don't worry. But are you clear about what is lymph? Now I told you, lymph is not some, I feel like there is just some aura around lymph which makes it scary. But lymph is very simple. It's very, very simple. It's very easy. This is the basic concept you need to know. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. Yes? Now, of course, another one that Meera is asking me about is platelets, right? Now, see, platelets that are there are, platelets that are there are basically structures or cells which are part of our blood, which we also call as thrombocytes, right? Now these thrombocytes, so platelets will be floating in the blood. Now suddenly, if there is a injury, then your platelets will rush to the site of action. And what these platelets will do, it's a long process, okay? Clotting of blood is not some single step process, but these platelets will go. So if there is a wound here, it will go and it will bind here and it will form a mesh. So a mesh-like structure is formed, and when the mesh-like structure is formed, it will make sure that blood will clot and it will make sure that the wound is healed. Simple. So with the students, thrombocytes are nothing but platelets, another name for that. So like leukocytes is another name for WBC, erythrocytes is another name for RBCs. So with the students, I come to the end of today's class. In 2 hours, actually in 1 hour 40 minutes, I have wound up the class. Now are we all clear? Ma'am, how will blood clot on the skin? It clots from underneath, right? You do have blood vessels. How long will it take to clot? Normally it depends upon the extent of the injury. If it is light and shallow, clotting happens pretty fast. You've noticed it, right? For a longer injury, we know that we may have to suppress the flow of blood. We may have to apply external pressure in order to close it. Ma'am, what will happen to HCl if a person drinks water? See, percentage of HCl that gets secreted, right? So when percentage of HCl that is there, if say we drink water, it's not like it gets diluted and the action will be reduced. Our body finds a mechanism in order to make sure that the food is digested. Now it is recommended that you don't drink water as side by side, because you also have a tendency of feeling full as well, which is why it's important to make sure that you do this. Anu, I have discussed how to differentiate parts of brain. मैम मैं अभी स्टार्टिंग से पढ़ना शुरू कर सकता हूँ क्या? मैम अभी से स्टार्टिंग से पढ़ना, you can start from the beginning, right? You can start from the beginning, but again prioritize. If you're going to start from the beginning only now, spend more time to study the concepts, read the textbook, watch the one shot, or watch one shot, read textbook, and make sure you make your notes properly. Yes? Ma'am, full day water, then no food, what will happen? So Karthik, I was watching a video. There is some research which is being done on it, but I am not accurate to answer this right now because I don't remember the details of it. How about I come back and I teach you? That will be better. Thank you, Team 7 guy. Now books. Students, first priority NCERT. Nothing will come outside NCERT for board exam. Secondly, If you want for questions, do NCRT exercise and NCRT exemplar questions along with PYQs. Where will I find them? You will be able to access PYQs on the BYJU'S website. You can download the app. You can also find it in some reference books also, or subscribe to the channel because we do a lot of PYQ questions. Now, of course, towards the end, what do we see? You can use reference book. Now it depends. Do you want reference book for concept or do you want reference book for practice? If you want reference book for practice, then you can use various books are available on the market. You can purchase any recommended. I would recommend. I have seen good questions in Noswell. I've seen good questions in EduCart. They have a lot of sample papers. I would recommend that. Okay? Yes. I can see that a lot of you here are anime fans, all Luffy, Team 7, so many names that are there. Okay, you can use 2019 edition. I will not recommend because after 2019, Ritika, there have been changes. So I would recommend that you don't use that because there are some topics which are deleted, some extra concepts. Preferably, I would not recommend that. Okay. Hello, Harsh. Okay. Ma'am, will any blue text? So mainly see, go through sample paper, go through practice paper. It will definitely help you out. Okay. So students, with this I'll be signing off. PCT, DCT are tubular parts of nephron that help in tubular secretion and reabsorption. So with this I'll be signing off. I hope you enjoyed the class today. Yes, I do, Saujit. I do. I enjoy it a lot. So I will see you all soon, but up until then, take care students. Lots of love to all of you. Don't forget to let me know if you enjoyed this class in the comments of this video. I will see you soon, but up until then, take care, lots of love and bye-bye.